All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jay Parker, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you for joining us for the State of the Market panel hosted by Alina Residences Boca Raton. It is always a distinguished pleasure for me to introduce our esteemed moderator, Mr. Jonathan Miller, the president and CEO of Miller Samuels. As those of you that know Jonathan know, he is an extraordinary authority on the real estate markets throughout the United States, and is always an extraordinary panelist, helping all of us, our agents, our clients, to understand what's happening in each of our markets, producing our incredible quarterly reports and our signed contract reports. Jonathan, thank you for being here. We're also very, very thrilled to have Jessica Del Vecchio, the Economic Development Manager for the City of Boca Raton. And last and certainly not least, our incredible real estate professional, Rochelle.TV, the Executive Director of Sales at Alina Residences. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate your time, and we're sure that today will be an informative session talking about Alina, talking about Boca Raton, and what's happening in the overall Palm Beach County market. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Rochelle, who will provide us with a brief presentation of the Alina Residences.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We're delighted that you've chosen to spend a little bit of your time this morning with us to talk about the Boca Raton real estate market. And I'm excited to share with you a little about Alina Residences before we get started. So the image that you'll see on your screen is a very interesting mix. On the left, you'll see a building which is existing. That is 121 residences. That is phase one. And in the center of your screen and to the right, those are actually renderings. It's amazing how realistic they look today, isn't it? So just in the center of the screen, you'll see Alina 210, which is our boutique offering. This consists of 30 residences starting in the mid $3 million range with a 3-bedroom and 3.5 bath layout. The building is a little more exclusive in that it is small and has its own set of amenities exclusively for the use of the residents of Alina 210. And to the right, you will see Alina 220, which is our latest offering, and it includes residences ranging from a 1-bedroom plus den, just under $2 million, all the way up to a fabulous 4-bedroom penthouse at over $8 million. There are select residences in this building. We call it the Alina 220 collection. Very exciting offerings. We have grills on the patio. Some of them have plunge pools, summer kitchens, and some other special little treats that we're happy to offer. Collectively, Alina Residences is a 9-acre campus. It is the most luxurious offering in Boca Raton, and the phase one success is really catapulting us forward. This is representative in many ways of the Boca Raton market in general. It's increasingly luxurious, and people want the right place to call home among friends. So any questions about Alina Residences, I hope that you'll consider me a resource and feel really welcome to reach out. Meanwhile, let's segue into Boca Raton and the greater conversation.
Thank you, Rochelle. We are really, really excited about the transformation of downtown Boca with what Alina has done and will continue to do. As Rochelle said, we're seeing extraordinary results at the project, and we hope that you'll all take the opportunity to take Rochelle up on her offer to share with you this extraordinary project developed by Alad Garcia Stromberg Architecture, and really has been extraordinarily well embraced by both the city of Boca Raton and all the new residents living there. And with that, turn it over to my dear friend, Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Jay, and good morning, everybody. I have some numbers, and I think when we look at Boca Raton and the performance of the condo market there, it's been quite extraordinary. In fact, for the last decade or so, as I've been covering a wide array of housing markets in Florida, Boca Raton has really stood out as one of the best performing markets in terms of sales levels, price trends. And I think one of the biggest characteristics of the Florida market right now, because of the insatiable demand that we're seeing, and we're going to talk a little bit about where that demand is coming from in a few minutes. but I wanted to sort of give you an idea of what how the market is performing. We just published today the first quarter of 2022 Boca market report, and for the fifth straight month, we're seeing median home prices set new records. Fifth straight quarter, rather, not month. We're seeing inventory essentially collapse in the sense that inventory has not been able to keep up with supply. We're seeing record lows for inventory. In fact, compared to before the pandemic, if you will, 2 years ago, inventory is down about almost 80%, which is quite astounding, to the lowest it's been on record. And because of that, we're actually seeing a tremendous amount of bidding wars. About almost a third of sales activity in the condo market is actually closing above the last asking price. So I think, the takeaway from this, the results of the quarter, first of all, the first quarter is nothing new. We've been seeing this for the last year. It's just a continuation of the trend, which is rising prices, falling inventory, faster marketing times, and sales activity that is being restrained, meaning the full potential, Jay, of sales activity is not able to occur simply because the pace of the market is at record levels and inventory is so low. And it brings to mind, when you think about how the market's performing, where is all this demand coming from? And I thought maybe Jay first, and maybe Jessica could give us some thoughts of what's going on. Where is this coming from?
Well, thank you, Jonathan, and I'm sure Jessica and I have a lot to add to that. I just wanted to point out something that we've discussed, and I think a lot of our real estate agents throughout the Palm Beach County, and frankly throughout the entire state of Florida, should pay attention to. You mentioned that the overall sales velocity in some of these markets is slightly off from where it was a year ago. But I think people should understand that that is not representative of a lack of demand, but rather the combination of inventory levels and price points, because it seems like days on market is low, is slow, is faster. Prices are obviously up. So I just wanted people to understand that point. I think it's critical in their communication with their clients, both buyers and sellers.
And actually, Jay, I'll just add to that is that when you have bidding wars approaching a third of sales activity, that is not easing demand. It's simply that there isn't product to sell. Now, this is not unique. It's certainly a significant condition of Boca, but this is what we're seeing across most of, or all of Douglas Elliman's footprint in Florida, that we're seeing a tremendous burn off of inventory, if you will, that sales is simply overpowering it. And it's we're seeing interest rates begin to rise, but about 2/3 of the market are cash buyers, and that skews towards cash as you move towards luxury. And luxury is where the market has been shifting towards, as Rochelle had mentioned earlier, that we're seeing this skew, and we've been seeing it really since the end of the lockdown, that the higher end, as you move higher in price, it's not that there isn't action below that, below the luxury market, but it is more concentrated as you move higher, which is quite a, I don't know if you call it a turnaround, but sort of a shift in market characteristics that I don't think was anticipated when we went into the lockdown early on.
For sure not. And I have a lot to say, but I'm going to hand it over to Jessica with the concept that Jonathan introduced yesterday, because Jonathan's famous for these terms of art that he defines that redefine markets. And yesterday he used this word restructuring of the market. And I really take my hat off to you, Jessica. You have done a remarkable job in helping the city restructure itself from great to greater. Maybe you could share with us who's coming in Boca, what's happening in Boca, and where you see it going.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me again. Love working with you guys. I mean, to be able to sell to the executives. So let me just back up. So I run the Office of Economic Development for the city of Boca Raton. What that means, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, is we work with the corporate executives that are here to help them expand their operations, as well as recruiting other companies from out of state to relocate their business in Boca Raton. We're right now working a couple of deals out of the New York, the high tax areas, New York, New Jersey, and California. That's where we're seeing a lot of our activity. That's where we do a lot of our advertising, Wall Street Journal, San Francisco Chronicle, just those types of, you say it restructuring, which is the perfect word. We call it business reimagined, right? So we've all been tested over the last 2 years. Can we really make this work? I mean, look at us, it's 100 of us on this call right now. It's hard to get 100 people in the room from other states. It's much more cost efficient to do business this way. So we're recruiting more companies than ever. To give you an idea, because we're talking some comps on leasing and sales on the residential side, just to show you, you know, when I started here 7 years ago, our activity, we were just getting started. We had no marketing materials. Boca Raton was, you know, we were coming into our own, but we've always had that innovative technology sector from the IBM days. But in 2019, our leasing activity for the city was 138 ballpark, 138,000 square feet. Through COVID, everyone was going to leave their office building. No one was ever going back to an office, and leasing was going to basically dry up, and we were going to have, you know, shells in Boca. It was a true scary moment, more than a moment, but it was very scary. And that's when we ramped up our marketing initiatives. That's when we ramped up outreach to employees that were losing their work. How do we help them as well? A lot of these services are free. And in 2020, our leasing activity actually went up about 26,000 square feet to 165,000 square feet, because people were coming down to their second homes or third homes in Boca Raton, or they had family and friends here and were looking to rent or buy something, and they were opening up a small office here. In 2021, for the 4 quarters, we have seen activity of 227,000 square feet of leasing activity in our small city, which is 29 square miles of 100,000 people. So we're seeing it ramp up drastically. Business reimagined. And properties like Alina, you know, executives that come into town, we have a private airport, we have the universities with the workforce here, but people that are flying in, they want the amenities. They want properties like Alina, you know. So Alina has been an asset to us from a city perspective, to show people how they could really live in a downtown that is up and coming, getting more vibrant with Brightline coming on. We could talk about that if you'd like, but just a lot of things happening in downtown Boca and Boca as a whole, but the numbers speak for themselves.
What are the industries that are coming in? Who are you attracting? And how does that help Boca? In other words?
Absolutely. So one of the main factors is we go through a program where we generally, we have corporate headquarters here. So half the corporate headquarters in Palm Beach County are based in Boca Raton. We have 12 million square feet of space, which is a lot, again, for a relatively small city. And so we attract lately, especially a lot of financial services firms, med tech. We've had some med tech and some technology firms that are actually, you know, Mayor Suarez in Miami has done a great push about technology in Miami, and it's been a great asset to all of us, because not everyone is going to Miami for multiple reasons, whether it be children's school system. You know, it's a whole regional approach to marketing, but financial services is probably one of the biggest influx of sectors that we're seeing in the city of Boca Raton.
Tell me about, you know, you just mentioned the region, and I think one of the sort of undersung, if that's a word, economic factors, I think, is the Brightline and connecting the dots, so to speak, in Florida. And I understand that the station is being completed in Boca. What does that mean? Like, how does that open things up or change things for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't throw this word around lightly, but it's truly a game changer for Boca Raton. It will open us up to not only from a workforce perspective, if you want to have people coming from Miami or West Palm or even Orlando, right? So it'll have a stop here that will stop in downtown Boca Raton. It's slated to be completed in fall of 2022. So in addition to workforce and competitiveness, you know, when people do have a hybrid approach to work and they come back to the office, it's a way to travel leisurely with free Wi-Fi, access to a shuttle that takes you, or a car or a Tesla, depending on your approach, for last 5 miles. So, you know, someone who lives in Alina could schedule their Brightline ticket when it's available, which is again fall of 2022, and they can take any kind of car that they choose off of the app and not even leave they leave their house, they get into the car, they go to Brightline, and they can go north to Kravitz Center and see a show. They can go south to Lincoln Road to have an amazing dinner in Miami. And again, they don't have to drive. So it's a more pleasurable way to travel, especially to those that are coming from the Northeast that travel. You know, we've all done that. I worked in the city. We take the train to the city, and it's just part of, they call it a rat race, right? This is so much better than that, in my opinion. And it's been a sales tactic for us. So we're also seeing commercial activity come into the downtown. So businesses, a tech company out of California has moved to East Boca Raton as opposed to the Northwest Corridor, where we're usually see the activity in anticipation of the Brightline. So we're going to see a vibrancy, a technology kind of vibe come into downtown Boca that we haven't had before, which is going to be it's going to change the whole downtown.
So I want to ask you a question that I already know the answer to, but I want to hear how you say it. You know, earlier Jay had mentioned, and you had mentioned, you know, sort of this inbound where people are coming from, and we had talked about New York, New Jersey, California. Just maybe elaborate a little bit on what that means. Why are they coming to Florida? I mean, it's sunny. Maybe, you know, I'm in Manhattan right now and it's gray skies, but you know, California isn't necessarily the same. What's going on?
Well, yeah, Manhattan's great. California's great. We've worked with companies out of both cities. Obviously, from a tax perspective, with the no state income tax, Boca Raton is attracting wealth, ultra high wealth, not just Boca Raton. Again, it's a regional approach. And we work with our colleagues in other cities and other counties, because we know joining forces is obviously makes us stronger, right? We truly believe in a stronger together attitude. But we're seeing them come into the area, and if they have homes here or are looking for homes here, if they just stay long enough to get that tax benefit, it's literally money in their pocket. And the workforce is here with the education system in Boca Raton, especially with A-rated schools, private schools, 3 colleges. They have the talent pool that they weren't sure because of Seinfeld's Del Boca Vista nonsense. You know, we're up against that sometimes still, but the newer people who know they can work from anywhere, why not choose paradise, right? You save money, you can go to the beach at the end of the day. So it's really a tax savings more than anything, but it's a safe, beautiful area on top of that.
Actually, Jonathan, I'd love to expand upon that, because, you know, we really are seeing what I've referred to as, over the last year or two, as a transformation of this market. And I think I'm particularly excited about what's happening in downtown Boca, because you say the word downtown and you think of major metropolitan markets like Fort Lauderdale, Miami, to some extent now the rapidly evolving West Palm Beach. But what's so extraordinary in my mind about Boca is, notwithstanding it's in the downtown core, and we're referring it to a downtown core, but it's somehow been able to maintain this element of low density. And so they're lower rise buildings. There's an experience there that I refer to as Florida-esque. I mean, if you look behind Jessica at the palm trees, the pink towers, the golf courses behind Rochelle, you know, Boca's done something very, very special with the development of its downtown core. And in doing so, they have now availed our customers and the buyers and the new residents in Boca and people that are relocating within Boca to experience that downtown element of lifestyle, walkability, easily connecting, proximity to dining and culture and golf and all those great things, but at the same time, still being able to enjoy what we all know Florida to be representative of, the sunshine and the beautiful outdoor weather and all those great things. And I'm particularly invigorated by what we're seeing in Boca, and I'm working with other developers in downtown markets to try to really replicate that, where we still may have, a more dense, more robust type of environment. So I think, and by the way, just to digress for 1 second, I think that when we initially launched Alina several years ago, we heard the question a lot from people like, how can you really have luxury living in the downtown core? How can you, if you're not on the beach, how is it luxury? And I think that also speaks to the evolution of our buyers and our profile in our market. I mean, historically, if New York was your primary residence, then Florida was a vacation destination and it was defined by beach, sun, outdoors. But to live here full time, we think about a lot more than that, right? We think about, ease of connection, and the Bright Line. I mean, this is going to be, as you say, a game changer for the Boca market, for the Fort Lauderdale market, for frankly, all of Florida, because we're going to have this extraordinarily high level use of communication that frankly doesn't exist in many other markets in the world. But I think that the downtown Alina experience has shown us and our developers that people are willing to live and define luxury in a non-beachfront environment. And quite frankly, I think we've all gotten a little smarter over the years where, laying out in the sun all day on the beach may not be what people that are looking to live a healthy, wellness-inspired lifestyle are going to do. So it really has not only redefined, and as you say, Jonathan, it's not only a restructuring, but it's also a recalibration of what luxury is and what lifestyle is all about. And I know, Rochelle, you've lived in Boca for many years, and you've sort of you're an example of this. I mean, you could live anywhere and you choose to live.
It's true. It's true. And I'll tell you, Jay, you hit the nail on the head with redefining and recalibration. So luxury, I think, and this is not unique to Boca and Florida, but we really see this taking hold here, is that people in general in our post-pandemic era are really redefining for themselves how they want to live. So luxury and being on a beach and all of the things you allude to are like resort. So for many, many years and decades and centuries, perhaps, some of the most luxurious locations in the world are actually major metropolitan areas. New York City, Paris, London, Chicago, Dubai, right? These are very luxurious places to live, and they are not necessarily a resort atmosphere. What we're finding a number of our residents in Boca Raton are asking themselves is, how do I want to live day to day? And how do I elevate my day-to-day experience of living? So going back, the most luxurious places decades ago in Boca Raton were, generally speaking, either oceanfront condominiums or the country club communities. And we are now seeing people gravitating to projects like Alina and luxury offerings in the downtown core from both the beach and from the country club, because they're thinking, okay, well, health and wellness and walkability. I mean, I joke about it all the time. 10 years ago, I never even heard this word walkability. What does that word even mean? And now it's on everyone's lips. Like, they want to go out the door. They want to be in a healthy, wonderful environment. They want amenities like spa and really expanded spa options. Alina Residences has like a massage and facial room, a Himalayan salt room, and of course, on top of all the standard things that you'd expect in terms of a luxury building, but being able to walk to the beach, being adjacent to a major resort and club, being walking distance literally to all of the best restaurants in town. These are the things that today's buyers are asking for, and particularly those who have an experience of living in a true luxury metropolitan environment, like New York City. We're seeing a huge influx of out-of-area buyers from Southern California and other parts of the country. They specifically want this sort of lifestyle. So I would say our development in the downtown core, Bright Line, the expanded offerings locally, and the connectivity to other major cities in Southeast Florida, it's all it's all happening exactly in a really synchronistic fashion.
Rochelle, actually, you were the one that opened my eyes to this concept about luxury isn't always defined by being on the beach, and that's been a fascinating sort of, because when you apply that to Florida now, that that's the development that we're seeing a lot of. Sort of this sort of new way of thinking about luxury. One of the things I think also is the age or sort of the shift of sort of the perception of Boca, and Jessica has sort of opened my eyes to this numerically. The average age of a resident of Boca is trending lower. I don't know, Jessica, do you have a number? I want to say it's younger than me, but
it's younger than me too, I think. Yeah, so right now our median age is 49, and in 5 years, when we all age 5 more years, the median age will be staying the same.
Wait, were the grandparents on Seinfeld 49?
It's so true, because there's a whole market here that people are not really, I think the perception sometimes is different than reality. So we had to put in a new elementary school just a year ago, because of the demand of the young families coming into the area, like Rochelle said, tech companies coming out of California because of the taxes and things of that nature have been coming into Boca. They're buying homes or going into a downtown core like Boca's downtown, and they are putting their children in A-rated schools. So how do we do that and meet capacity? So we had to put a new school in, which is a definite sign of us aging younger, right? So in 5 years, when we're all getting 5 years older, the city of Boca Raton will be remaining at an estimated 49 years old. So let's bottle that.
Interesting. Yeah. So over the last few years, that's been a noticeable trend, right?
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to say youth renaissance, but definitely something. The other thing I wanted to touch on, and maybe Rochelle, you can chime in, is Jay had mentioned earlier the term restructure, the way, and part of what Rochelle had opened my eyes to years ago was sort of how we think about luxury, and it's not necessarily always oceanfront. But one of the things I think, and maybe we can touch on this further, is that, one of the sea changes that occurred from the pandemic was that Zoom became ubiquitous in 24 hours. And all of a sudden it was painfully obvious, not painfully, I would say, it's sort of a love-hate relationship I think we all have with Zoom, but the ability to work remotely, and whether it's the headquarters or in New York, and you can work remotely in Boca, is sort of a de facto or a default way of thinking now, and that's probably why we're seeing the age numbers, I think, will continue maybe to a certain point.
What you say is true. I mean, Jonathan, you're right on it. So a lot of our demographic is shifting, increasingly young and increasingly affluent. So, if you were in an environment,
right, that's the combination. It's youth and sort of wealth.
Yes. And a lot of this is predicated on the fact that people can now work from virtually, pun totally intended, anywhere. So, a decade ago, people who would consider spending a meaningful amount of time in our area either had to be retired or have jobs here. I mean, it was really binary, right? And today we're seeing not retired CEOs, but active CEOs buying homes in Florida. We have a number of people at Alina and in other areas of the downtown core where they are actively running a company. And they're also taking a look at, okay, what are the tax ramifications of me continuing to run my household and my company out of, I'm going to call them the tax punitive states. And they're reevaluating, how do I want to live? And if I could live anywhere, in a business friendly climate, someone like Jessica can help them to come here and lower probably all of their expenses, increase their standard of living for their entire workforce and for themselves. And also, from a personal perspective, be able to reduce, the amount of taxes that they're paying. I've had more than one buyer in recent years, like the last 2 years, say, I just bought this house for X. It's going to be multi-million dollars. And in 3 years' time, the tax savings alone, I basically just got a free house. So it just boils down to, for many people who, because they have that level of flexibility now, it's just smart business. Then you throw on top of it, you're walking to the ocean and you're living this lifestyle that, even a decade ago was aspirational for most, and for many was not even within a possibility until late into retirement years.
Yeah, and I think the other thinking on that is with the younger CEOs coming in is that you've got sort of 2 years ago, during the midst of the crisis, we developed, I think many people sort of conventional, the saying conventional wisdom is usually wrong. The conventional wisdom on remote work was suburb to city, right? That in order to remote work, you had to live in the suburbs. That was the thinking. And then you would remote into the downtown, or, where the headquarters were, and that's how it worked. And it's sort of it's turned out to be a silly thing, because you live in there's just many people living in downtowns and remote working to either downtown or another city, as there are people that are living in the suburbs and remoting in. It's sort of, everything has been turned on its head, basically. And I find that interesting, and sort of plays into exactly what Jessica's saying, where that you have corporate executives that are relocating their companies. Often they relocate them because they want to be there, right? They're not going to go necessarily where they don't want to be. But the fact is that even though the headquarters are there, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to work in the office 5 days a week, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think, what we all kind of, those of us that live in Florida, all kind of knew for as long as we've been living here, is that we live in this very special place that's just, kissed by the sun and beautiful breezes and beaches and lifestyle, but it has been so powerfully augmented over the last decade or so with culture and education and obviously a very welcoming business environment and culinary. I mean, I'm seeing restaurants pop up all over the place, and high caliber national or internationally, recognized institutions. And then, of course, you have something we don't necessarily want to be talking about, but hospitalization and elder care and all the things that really have matured so extraordinarily and have risen up to meet the very discerning demands of the same people that are bringing their wealth here and bringing their families here and changing this dynamic that we live in. So it's almost like we're in this perfect storm of, an evolution of product, an evolution of community, an evolution of the state. And frankly, I'm thrilled that we're all here to be able to meet these great opportunities with open arms. It's sort of like this incredible banner for what we're doing, that people move here and they love it, and they brag about it. And by the way, we can all say this today so much more comfortably, because we are fortunate to see that all of our markets across the country are really doing very, very well. Our agents in other markets are selling a ton of real estate. Our company is performing well on each of its levels of measure. And so we're seeing a great time, and obviously the world's not perfect, but I think that what we hope to have is, settling down of inflation over the next, period of time, and hopefully stabilization of the, equity markets. And I frankly, Howard Lorber always says, the one thing we know about interest rates is they're either going to go up, they're going to go down, or they're going to stay the same. Hold
on, Jay, let me write that down.
Yeah.
I like that.
Up, down, and stay the same. It's one of the things he's brilliant about.
Yeah.
Being realistic, but at the same time, I think a lot of us are getting caught up by some of the hype, some of the media. 5% interest rates, guys, are still historically low. If they go to 10%, we start to have a different element to discuss. But just actually,
just to comment on that, I'm actually very pleased I think that rates going to where they are is better for the longevity of this housing boom. It makes it sustainable, as opposed, one of the problems with lower interest rates is they actually make housing less affordable in the long run, because you burn off inventory faster, and that's exactly what's happening. So I think this is a good thing in terms of keeping a good thing going in terms of transaction volume and all that. The other point I wanted to make was that, and this speaks more to the restructuring of Florida, is that this is, in terms of looking down the road, I really view this as and I'm sort of repeating what Jay had said in the beginning, but it really is a structural change. This is not sort of this pie in the sky sort of moment. I think this is the beginning of seeing this region as something different than it was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, which is more year-round but not necessarily full-time year-round, but more about a place to live for an extended period of time, and maybe in terms of the luxury or the wealth creation that's occurred over during the pandemic, especially, is that there's been this tremendous inversion since the pandemic of housing demand has skewed to the higher end, the upper half of the wealth sort of spectrum. And I think in the context of Florida, that is a long-term shift as opposed to just a blip. And we continue to see it. It's already been quite a while since the lockdown, pandemic lockdown, and we're still seeing those patterns stay pretty strong.
I think, Jonathan, I'm hoping you agree with this statement. We get asked a lot, and I'm sure all of our agents do as well, about whether or not this is sustainable. And I have to tell people, or I feel compelled to share with people, that there's two elements to that question. The first is this level of volume and inbound migration sustainable? And then the second component is, are these prices sustainable, and where do we see the market going? And I like to say that I think that the natural migration to Florida has been consistent. People like to come here at different stages in life for different reasons. So while I think the pandemic has opened up the floodgates, and I do expect at some point, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, I expect that inbound migration to slow slightly. But at the same time, I think more importantly, as it relates to the value of our markets, the value that people are paying, and the ultimate direction of pricing, I don't see there to be much of a basis for any real material retraction in pricing. If anything, maybe stabilization at some point, because the people that are buying here are buying their primary homes where they live. And I don't see that people are going to back away from those in the same way they might if it was an investment property or a second or third home. And so I'm very bullish on the long-term value proposition of Florida real estate.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think it's a reset of price structure, because sort of the optics of Florida have changed. Right. And as opposed to, there's very little leverage, in terms of mortgage financing, when you're talking about 2/3 cash versus mortgage financing. So there's very little leverage. And on top of that, the financing that is being given by banks is 15 to 20% tighter than long-term norms in terms of underwriting standards. So this is not a sort of footloose, yeah, like, you need a pulse or fog a mirror to get a mortgage. Like this is not one of those cycles at all. And so really this is happening without that factor at all. And that's why, I think from a long-term sustainable pattern, it's more realistic in this cycle.
Boots on the ground, Jonathan, we are seeing very limited speculative investing in our marketplace. New construction historically, it seems to be a magnet, right, for speculative investment. And in our case, in phase one, we had zero speculative investment. We had a couple of turnovers, right, like after the building was delivered, but very limited. And even the people who are investors in this marketplace are professionals. We're seeing institutional investors with very, sound financials, and they're putting their money to work in the marketplace in a way that is, it's business, right? And so really a big part of the bubble was predicated on, in my opinion, in Southeast Florida, at the time I worked in the Miami market, this wild speculative investment.
Well, carpenters and nurses quitting their jobs and becoming
like
real estate
postal
experts.
Workers buying 5 homes, right, based on a stated income.
That is not a phenomenon now. And so even though the market is 2/3 cash as a general rule across the region, the part that the 1/3 is not sort of high risk speculation. And I think that's a sign of the times in terms of what the market, and that's another reason why I look at this as a restructure in, of the what we saw in the last 10 or 15 years. It's something very different than that. The weather's still the same, but the speculation is not.
Jonathan, I'm obviously dealing with developers and agents across our Florida markets. And one of the things that still frankly amazes me and I think is so opportunistic is the pricing at Alina. And I just, and speaking with Howard this morning, we were talking about, price per square foot in some of our markets and hearing numbers like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a square foot.
Yeah.
Uber luxury product. And then you take it to Rochelle's neck of the woods and you talk about Alina. And I envision personally, Jessica, you'll love this. I envision Boca becoming very much an enclave like Palm Beach, a place that has super sophisticated financial services firms, ultra wealthy residents and clientele, and still with product that, pricing like Alina. And maybe you could speak to that, Rochelle. It seems to me almost one of those too good to be true moments.
It is. And I have to tell you, a number of our purchasers are from out of market. So our phase one offering, for many reasons, attracted many local buyers. We're very familiar with our marketplace, et cetera, and wanted to make this shift into the downtown core. And now we're seeing a number of people from these much more expensive markets come in, and our opening price points are at just under $1,000 a square foot. And then of course they do range from there, right? But even I mentioned when we first opened, right? I had a little introduction about Alina Residences, this super exclusive boutique building, right? We're approaching $1,500 a square foot. So for a buyer who's accustomed to these sorts of amenities in, say, a Manhattan or a Chicago or international cities, it's double and in some cases triple what our pricing is for a very similar product in not as business friendly climate.
Because we're also, this is all happening without a lot of international demand. Right, that this is, there's the lion's share of demand is domestic, and so there's still that future upside as well. If we at some point see the dollar weaken a bit and there's more of a sort of currency play for international demand. I mean, the way I've been describing New Yorkers that come to Florida and particularly Boca, they're the new foreign buyer, right? And that's really, that's really been a phenomenon, quite an astounding phenomenon, I think.
Sure. When you're accustomed to, 3,000 a square foot and 4,000 a square foot, you sometimes people will say, wait. Like they have to, you see it in their you can see the wheels turning, right? It doesn't quite add up for them. And for many people, I am hearing this perception that Boca Raton is like a hidden gem. Some other coastal marketplaces in Southeast Florida corridor, notably Palm Beach, particularly Palm Beach Island, and certain parts of Miami are just as expensive as major metropolitan cities like London and New York. And Boca Raton, for many people, is the best of many worlds, but also an exceptional value.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
by
this
the way,
is-
if no one, the CEO of Elad is watching, we will expect a call from you after to raise prices. So for those,
Just a moment. Do not watch the Zoom. Yeah.
It's but it really is that period for all of us. If you're not in the Florida market, or frankly, even if you are, I think you're going to be, rock stars to your clients, because I really do believe that products like the new development landscape offer really, really solid, not only lifestyle opportunities for our clients, but also investment opportunities. And I think that, we've seen this tremendous growth. I'm looking, Jonathan, at the upper 10% of luxury condos in the Boca Raton market. You're seeing a 40% year-over-year change in average price per foot. I mean, these
Yes.
are remarkable numbers.
Right.
Howard Lorber always says the nice thing about real estate is you don't get to see what it's worth every day, right? You turn on the TV, or you flip your phone on, you see what your stock portfolio is worth every minute, every millisecond of all day long. But it makes you feel good when you bought something for $1 and it's worth 40% more in 1 year, and all you did was enjoy living there, or perhaps just have a deposit on a condo. So I feel very, very good about all that.
Yeah, this is the part of, after talking to Rochelle and Jessica and Jay, that I always get uncomfortable, because I live in Connecticut and work in Manhattan, and I start asking myself, well, why am I not in Florida? I start trembling.
That's because you like the cold weather, Jonathan.
I do like the cold weather.
By the time you want to be here, Alina will be 4,000 a foot.
Right. Day late and $1 short, I think, is the way it'll work for me. But this is, I think just to recap the things that we've talked about, which has been really interesting, I think, for our listeners, in the sense that Boca, first of all, is aggressive through Jessica's efforts at attracting outside input, in the context of companies that tend to have higher wage earners in their employ coming to Boca. That's number one. Number two is we have the Bright Line, which I think expands Boca greatly to the region itself. I also think that there is a continuing trend of low inventory, which, even if inventory doubled or tripled, it would still be unusually low. And so that's a sort of a tight environment. This is not a market for speculation. And it's part of this Florida restructuring. This market is one of these, the way to think of Boca is it's a market that's participating in Florida's restructure, which is but emphasizing more year-round residency. And a lot of that has been enabled by Zoom, which will be with us for the rest of our lives, like it or not.
Well, Jonathan, thank you. As I said at the beginning, we're particularly grateful to you and Jessica for availing us of your time. We know how busy you are both in doing what you do so well, both for the city of Boca Raton and for us, Jonathan, on a national level. I have to say, for all of our DE element agents out there today, our first quarter market report by Miller Samuel is released. And I really encourage you to take advantage of that, because this is a time that people are asking very, very important questions about where the market's going. And whether it's myself or your managers or Jonathan, who's always made himself remarkably available, please understand the reports, share those reports, and use those reports to help you become and continue to be the extraordinary real estate advisors you are to your clients and our communities. On behalf of our Douglas Elliman Development Marketing team, I wish you all an extremely powerful Thursday, and thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching my show. If you like what you saw, I hope you'll consider subscribing and hit that like button. It would mean a lot to me personally. If there's something specific you'd like to see, leave a note down in the comments for me. I'd be really interested to know what you think. If you'd like to see more, take a look at some of these other videos. See you next time.